On today's Church Tech Cast Q&A, Hangouts on Air, HDMI, and AVCHD on a Mac. Hey, and welcome again to another episode of the Church Tech Cast Question and Answer Show. I, of course, am your host, Paul Allen Clifford, and I want you to ask your questions just like some of these other people have. So head over to trinitydigitalmedia.com/contact. You can find all my contact information there. If you're watching the video on YouTube or on the site, you'll see that I have my... Let me try and point to it here. Not good at this. Yes, right there. I have my Twitter handle at Paul Allen Cliff. That's PaulAllenclif. So you can also tweet me there, send me a mention, at reply, whatever Twitter's calling them these days, and we'll go from there. So the first thing I want to do is mention just a couple of things. First off, if you want to do some live streaming like I'm doing, my live streaming provider is churchstreaming.tv. So you can go ahead and visit them over at trinitydigitalmedia.com/churchstreaming. Now, the reason I want you to do that is I do get a little bit of an affiliate commission if you sign up through them. There are a lot of other services that have a base rate plus a per subscriber rate. So you don't know from month to month what your bill is going to be. That's not the case with churchstreaming.tv. With them, it's a flat rate. For churches under 2,000 people in attendance, it's just $99. That's, if you want to think of it per weekend, that's $25 a weekend. You can't beat that. They also stream directly to iOS devices, Android devices, and you can even have a Roku channel like the one that I'm about to launch here as soon as Roku approves it. So that's just some of the things that you can do with churchstreaming.tv, and their customer service is second to none. So head on over to trinitydigitalmedia.com/churchstreaming and take a look at them. Also, I want you to head over to Amazon and look for this book, What Life Are You Waiting For by Pete Heiss. Pete Heiss is my pastor. So I've heard some outtakes, some sample chapters from this, and I was there at the sermon series that became this book, and it's phenomenal. So I've got a short link for you there as well. Again, trinitydigitalmedia.com/whatlifebook. And you can find out more about it there. It's available for pre-order right now, and I'd love you to pick up a copy. I'm actually on the team that's promoting this, and so I said, hey, I'm going to mention that in my podcast, and the assistant pastor said, please do, so I did. So there you go. Okay, let's get started with your questions. First off, over on the first few questions all came from churchmedia.net. Churchmedia.net is, as far as I know, the oldest still running church media community on the internet. A couple of my friends run that, and I used to every day spend hours on it, but now I've culled it back to just from time to time going over there. But this is a great question. So someone recorded some footage in an AVCHD format, which is a .mts extension, and he's trying to edit that on a Mac and having all kinds of problems. So let me read his question. This is Hug Organista. So Hug Organista says, okay, so I'm working on a project, videos recorded on an HD cam that records on HDD hard disk drive, I bet. All videos were recorded on .mts, which Mac does not read. How can I convert them to .mov or .avi? I need a free and fast converter that allows the video to keep its quality. Please help. So I've had good luck with Final Cut Pro 10. I know that a lot of people don't like Final Cut Pro 10, but it gets better and better all the time. So I I think that's the first thing I'd recommend, but that's not free. Final Cut Pro 6 and 7, if you do log and transfer instead of log and capture, that's important for this. Log and transfer, it should do it as well. If you don't have either of those, because neither are free, then the one that I've used most successfully is iHD Clip. And I got it on a special when it was free. Unfortunately, it's not currently free. So this isn't exactly answering your question when I say that it's $9.99. But for $10, after all the time that you've spent searching, having something that you know would work for $10 might be worth it to you. So that's why I recommend that. Uh, So Dave over in the chat room is asking about an HD camera for recording Sunday services. So I'm going to guess, Dave, that you mean the entirety of the Sunday service, not just clips from it. So that for a lot of the DSLRs, even though I love their video quality, that leaves them out because they've got a shortened um, piece. He says they're focusing on messages, so unless your pastor speaks for less than 15 minutes, though, still a DSLR isn't a good choice. There is the one we use at the satellite campus. Dave, are you PC or Mac? Let me ask him this because this will help. Okay. So the one we use for our satellite campus is a Canon, and I love the camera except it records in AVC HD. And the previous question kind of pointed out the limitation that for some reason Macs and AVC HD don't get along. So we're actually in the process of looking for one of those ourselves. Um, you can transcode it if you've got Final Cut 6, 7, or 10. The latest iMovie, I believe, will also do it. So we have 10. Great. So you have 10. You can do a log, or not a log and transfer. You can import from a card in Final Cut 10. And let me see if I can remember the model number of it. It is the Canon. I'm blanking. But it's a prosumer form factor. It's about this long. Here, let me look at it in my hands as opposed to on the monitor because it's about 8-10 inches long. It's not the XA20. I think it is the XA10A, but I think the 20 is a similar model. Has XLR inputs, which I love. Has phantom power for which I love. It's got an internal hard drive, and it also has a slot for 2 SD cards. So that's, I think, the advantage right there is you've got the SD card slots. You could have a pocket full of SD cards and record all day. But the quality that we normally record on, a 64 gig card lasts for like 10 hours. So you wouldn't even have to clean that thing off, but twice a month max probably. So it's a good camera, and if you're willing to, oh yeah, the quality is really great. The only problem I have is the AVC HD format because to edit it, I have to take it in and transcode it, and it takes a few minutes to do that. Unfortunately, this is at our satellite campus, and I don't live there. So I can't just start it after service and then come back a couple hours later and upload the end result after I put in and out points. So that's the only downside I have with it. I love the camera in every other way. If it recorded directly to a QuickTime, it would be perfect in my mind. I mean, it's just a good little camera. Doesn't have interchangeable lenses, so I guess it wouldn't be perfect, but it would be a good little camera. So as I say, other than the recording format, and if you've got time to, if you don't have to have it up like directly after service, if there's a delay, or you can take it home and deal with it, or you work there and so you'll be back Monday anyway, whatever, then those aren't problems. The problem comes if you're in my situation where you show up on Sunday morning at 10 till 7 and you're there till 1:30 anyway, and you really want to get home. And I love my church and I hang out a while, but it takes a little longer than the while that I hang out after church to get it transcoded to an MOV. So that's the only limitation. I'll let you know if I come across something that is better, that records to an MOV, but other than that, I really enjoy that camera. The Vixia series, also from Canon, that's what they use on TWiT, This Week in Tech, and they take those out HDMI directly to their board, their switcher, and the quality on those seems good too. So I think I'd take a look at that. In your situation, I think I'd want XLR ends just because you're coming out of the soundboard probably. So that's what I would do if I were you. Okay. Oh, and you can switch that between mic level and line level, so it doesn't matter what you have coming out. Okay, so back on to some of the other questions. Dov Prost, again, over at the churchmedia.net community, says, small church considering converting to HDMI needs help. We are a small church using space inside a larger church. Our system is portable except that we have a projector mounted to the ceiling. We have been using a Kramer switcher to get signal via VGA to the projector over a 75-foot cable. The two monitors are on shorter VGA cables. We have a problem with volunteers constantly bending the pins on VGA cable we run to the stage monitor. We keep replacing the cable every month or two. I do not understand why they can't figure it out. I have shown them over and over how to connect it. It's a lost cause. We're thinking that if we convert the whole thing to HDMI, that should solve the problem. But then I'm reading that a 75-foot HDMI cable might not be a good idea. If we're using a Kramer switch distribution amplifier, is that going to be enough to get the signal over 75 feet? We were also looking at wireless projectors, but another thread said that wouldn't be good. There's also the possibility of using an Apple TV, but I would prefer a cable instead of wireless. Any suggestions? Added, is it possible to use the old projector to project on the back wall? It does not have an HDMI port. All good questions. First off, let me say, do not use HDMI. Period. Don't. HDMI is evil. It was invented by the devil. I'm convinced. Let me explain what I mean by that before I sound all alarmist. When you plug a Blu-ray player into your TV over HDMI, it's easy, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, it's great. The problem is it's meant to be plugged in once, and occasionally maybe you'll move, you'll unplug it, plug it back in, that's it. HDMI is a very tenuous signal. It's designed to fail. It's designed to fail if the cable run is too long. It's designed to fail if there's anything that anyone has ever possibly thought that might be in any way related to piracy. in the signal, it will fail. It has to have a two-way communication at all times between both ends. It's not good for live production. It's not good for live presentation. It's just bad. DVI is a better choice than HDMI. In this thread, there were other people that were saying that they'd worked in live production and they'd throw away an HDMI cable after it was used 3 or 4 times, even if it seemed good. And there's a very good reason for that, because HDMI is designed to fail. So you do not want to use it. Don't use HDMI. Now, I think probably the solution for you, though, is to use RGB HV. So an RGB HV cable carries the same signal as a VGA cable, but instead of having the pins, it has BNC cables. The BNC connector, I believe, was invented by Jesus himself. I'm joking, but it's so much better than HDMI. I mean, like, remarkably, 3 orders of magnitude better than HDMI in the connection itself. It's kind of like a coax cable in that you plug it in and you twist, but it's a quarter turn and it locks in place. There's one central pin, but it's thicker and much harder to bend. So you would have 5 of those versus the one connection, but 5 sure connections beat one connection every time in my book. And so basically what I would do is I'd run a 75-foot RGB HV cable with the 5 BNCs on it and have an adapter to VGA on each end and disconnect it from the adapter. So the stage monitor, leave the stage monitor hooked up to the VGA end and unhook the BNCs. And I think that'll solve your problem. HDMI, if you use it, you're asking for trouble. Time and time again, I've heard people say, oh, this worked perfectly for 6 months and then it stopped. That's because HDMI is meant to fail. If there's any problem whatsoever, it fails. VGA, if there's any problem, the picture gets slightly less crisp or it loses a color, but you can still read it. That's less than ideal, but would you rather have pink lyrics one Sunday when something is failing or no lyrics one Sunday when something is failing? I'd go with the pink. So that's my personal feeling on it. Yes, HDMI is evil. Let me say that again. Don't use HDMI. So Robbie Alb says, using security camera system for streaming. Hi everyone, I'm glad to have found this community and will contribute any way I can. I do have a question for the time being. We have just started doing live streaming of our services and we're thinking of possibilities for expansion at low cost. We were thinking of buying one of those security camera kits you get at Costco with several cams and the console to use to feed our video system. We currently using just a camcorder plugged in USB and our sound mixer for the audio. Does anyone know if these systems provide the connectivity we need to be able to send a video stream from that controller to a PC and then out to our streaming service? Thanks for any help you can provide with this. First off, the quality is going to be horrible. It might be black and white. It's probably going to be 15 frames a second versus your camcorder that's 30, or actually 29.97. So I would not use it. Secondly, it probably does not have the connectivity you need, so you would need an adapter. And if you're going to buy an adapter anyway, you might as well have a decent camera. I think probably what I would do is, let me find, yeah, here we go. The camera that I'm using right now, which would be a good wide shot, is the Logitech C615, and it is a USB camera running at 1080p. So you could absolutely use that as a good wide shot and even zoom into it. Assuming that your other camcorder is SD, you'll get a good amount of digital zoom. It wouldn't be actual zoom. Now, if you were running on a Mac, there's a program called Webcam Settings that I'm using. Um, and I've got that up here. I'm going to just real quick, I've got a couple of presets here. So let me switch on over to that webcam settings thing, and I want to show you the presets. So this is my normal preset. Now I've got another preset that I use when I'm recording against my white wall. So I have control uh, over the brightness and contrast. So the brightness and contrast is going to change, and also the zoom is going to change instantaneously. So watch this. See that? Okay. So clearly that is not good, and I'm going to switch back to my normal one. There we go. So basically what that did was it zoomed in and changed the brightness and contrast. So you could, if you had the webcam settings app, which I think is $9, plus this camera, you could even potentially have a couple of these cameras, which they're about $70 cameras, uh, and put them in a couple of different places and have different zoom settings set up. Again, assuming you're connected to a Mac. The Logitech software does work on a PC, but it doesn't have the zoom as far as I know. So that's just something to consider as a possibility. I'm using Wirecast. I'm not totally sure that I've got all the settings dialed in quite right just yet, but once I get those in, I can record well. The sync seems good. I've used Wirecast with the Mac before, version 4, which worked on before, it worked on the versions of the operating system before OS 10 Mavericks, and then with Mavericks they changed something, and so I had to go with version 501, which has a couple little things. It could be that they're bugs in the software, could be that they're just things that I need to dial in correctly. So that's something else for you to consider. Um, okay, Jack Meggs. Looking for a 30 to 60 second commercial. We are looking for 30 or 60-second evangelical commercial that we can air in Connecticut on broadcast television. Any thoughts? I couldn't find it, but there used to be a company that did that. That's all they did, and they would even negotiate with your local cable company to get you really great rates, $5 or less per air shot. Um, and I couldn't find them. But the one that I could find, I guess it's possible it's the same company. It's just been years since I've researched it. And that is faithhighway.com. And they have pre produced commercials as well. It might be worth hiring a local videographer to do it, actually. So, writing something really tight, uh, doing a lot of visualization, have someone who can draw out storyboards just to get exactly what you have in mind. And then that's yours, and you could resell it to other churches if you wanted to. So that's another possibility. Um, but that's a lot more work than just going to Faith Highway or another company that does that. Faith Highway was just the first Google result. Okay. Not liking the frames per second on my Wirecast here, but we'll keep going. Okay. Let's see here. Rich Garner on the Church Tech Group in Google+. Hi guys, been out of the multimedia game for a while. Back in the day there was only A-B roll edit and I'm setting up a new video production system for my church. I'd like to be able to record from multiple video sources, or at least to be able to dissolve between them live production style, since we will be streaming live events. Events will be standard services or workshops, but I would like to mix in character generation of speaker names, scripture references, discussion points, and any personal slides the speaker has brought. I've built many high-end gaming computers, but this will be my first I'm buying for a system of live video broadcast. We have very poor outgoing bandwidth, but I'm promised that uh, we'll soon have the highest speed possible in our area. Question: what hardware software solutions would you recommend for getting video sources into the machine? We will also be projecting through HDMI through two projectors, plus I prefer two workstation monitors. What kind of graphics cards would you recommend? Is there anything I should keep in mind when building this system that I did not cover here? First off, let me answer the last question. Don't go with Windows 8. I don't think that the professional broadcast stuff has caught up to Windows 8 with the level of reliability that you need. For those of us that might have just locked up. What's going on? Hello? Hello? Is this me you're looking for? Okay, there, I'm back. Huh, don't know what went on there. Okay, so I don't think that in broadcast video, all the hardware and software have caught up to Windows 8. It was such a huge transition, despite what one of my friends who is in video said about Windows 8 before it came out. Now that it has come out, he's not using it for production. Huh. So please don't go with Windows 8. Maybe Windows 9 is going to be better. I don't know. But please don't. Also, you're asking questions that are going to give you the wrong answer. So let me go back with those because he's since talked about this machine that he's building. First off, he wants to edit, record, and put up slides all at the same time on the same machine. That's just asking for trouble. I hate to say it, but it is. Even with the top of the line machine, which it seems like it's a pretty high end machine, any one of those processes could gack up the whole thing and you'd lose the entire Sunday service. And I don't want that to happen to you. So please don't do that. Don't do all three of those on the same machine at the same time. Secondly, you can get the sources in via USB or FireWire. With a solution like Wirecast, it can be fairly reliable. If you don't have any other solution, then that's the way to go. A, a more reliable way is to isolate each of the cameras, ISO record, ISO for isolate, each camera so that you can edit it later. That's going to dramatically increase your time spent. Yeah, and I don't like telling you to do that, but it's the truth. Now, you could ISO record and also switch with a software solution like Wirecast. Assuming you find something that's reliable, that's super important. As you saw just a second ago, my system locked up. The CPU usage is much higher than I like right now, so I don't know what's going on. But the so you could ISO record each camera, switch live, take the recorded feed and fix any problems that you have, and that's going to save you a lot of time over creating a recorded feed from scratch from all the ISO recordings, because it's just going to take you a bare minimum of 3 to 5 times as long as the service is to make an edited copy of it. Bare minimum. I wish there was something else to tell you, but that's just the way that it is. So that's a bit of a problem. The machine that he spec'd out that had to come in under $1,000 looks pretty beefy. The problem that he's going to run into is, despite the fact that it's a beefy machine, there's no solid state drive. So read-write processes off the hard drive are going to be problematic. He only has one hard drive, so writing to the same hard drive that he's reading from, potentially problematic. He wants multiple video cards so that he can do multiple processes. I just, Rich, I just, here's the thing. I just don't want you to spend $1,000 on this machine only to have it fail because you're trying to make it do the work of 3 to 5 other machines. And that's a lot. Now, streaming at 640 by 360, it's in widescreen, and people will assume it's HD because it's widescreen. Like, I'm streaming at 640 by 360, and people will assume that that's HD, even though it's not. It's technically standard definition. So that's some way to help. I noticed you spec'd out some FireWire cards, so you could get the cameras in there with FireWire. I'm really concerned about Windows 8. I'm really concerned because a gaming machine is not the same thing as a production machine at all. At all. One is a gaming machine is a Ferrari, and you might be thinking, well, that's pretty good. Yeah. A production machine is a Bugatti. A production machine has very specific requirements, and just getting the best might be wrong. It might be that you need to get something that's a little older in some situations. It might be that the thing that would work perfectly for gaming won't work at all for production. So those are all things that, from experience, it's saying to me, watch out, watch out. So I guess that's my big concern. I just don't want you to have problems. Okay? If I were in your situation, I know you're a PC guy. If they took you out and put me in, I'd immediately buy a Mac Mini. I'd put Wirecast on it, and I'd have an external hard drive to do the recording. That's what I would do. I'd perhaps have another machine for slides. I'd do a still background and use an older machine. Use a donated machine. Anything. Just don't do both on the same box. Don't. So I don't want to sound like I'm talking down. I want you to succeed. I do. So, anyway, next, Jeff Trammell on the Church Tech group, in response to a picture of a of the video room at my church, the main campus, the central campus, said, and the discussion about how I've been there for 13 years. When I started, we had a projector, a donated computer with PowerPoint 97 on it, and a VCR. And we'd switch inputs when we wanted to play something from the VCR. So it was less than ideal. It was a year until we added a DVD player. Okay? Very basic. So, the question is, how have you guys experienced such tremendous growth from 150 to 5,300? Word of mouth, personal evangelism, community outreach, or killer AV? You know that commercial where they say, wouldn't it be funny if you used ore? Like nuts or bolts? Oh, what are all these bolts, or what are all these nuts for? And the pool collapses. That's kind of the same thing. I would say personal evangelism. We're a very evangelically minded church. And by that I mean the senior pastor is Billy Graham quality when it comes to evangelism. And he's teaching everyone who will listen how to be an evangelist. I myself have led a couple of people to Christ, and I'm horrible at evangelism. So that tells you something, right? Word of mouth. We get the word out every way we can. We outreach to the community by helping every way we can. We do have killer AV, but I think that that's just kind of the hook that keeps some people when they try it out and they're like, wow, this music is great. Huh, didn't think church would be like that. Huh, they've got video. I didn't think church would be like that. It's kind of the curiosity factor that keeps them in. Our pastor's a gifted teacher. And there is a lot of prayer at my church. A lot. Now, I'm not saying that you don't pray. I'm saying that we have a team that's praying constantly. And you're saying, well, what do you mean? Like an hour a day? No, no, no. I mean from the time people arrive at the building on Sunday morning until they leave Sunday evening. And we don't have an evening service, by the way. There are people praying for us. We've got a very strong prayer team. We have people that come in and they pray over the seats, over where people are going to be as they come in. And, dear Jesus, please help the person that's going to sit in this seat. I don't know who it is, but you do. Please help them hear what they need to hear to come to know you. And if they know you already, please help them to transform more into who you want them to be. That kind of prayer on every seat, and we've got several hundred of those. 3 services in each of our campuses. So that's basically how it is. Daniel Mandick at again, same question. He asked, could you give us a run through of positions in this room and their jobs? Love it, by the way. Okay, so let me give you a run through of all the video team positions that we have on a Sunday morning. We have 4 camera operators. Camera 1 and 2 are close follow and wide follow on the message. Camera 3 is a roving shot that's either on the stage or in front of the stage. Camera 4 is up in the balcony getting a wide shot, although sometimes they'll get closer, but they're the farthest away shot, so they can't get as close as some of the others, but they can get interesting angles because they're not straight down, they're over to the side. Here, I'm trying to do this with my hand. So those are the camera operators. We also have a video producer. The video producer is in charge of everything that goes on any of the screens. And she, typically, there's Rachel and Abby, although Josh also helps. Josh is actually on staff, but normally he runs the switcher because it's more technical than the leadership of the other position. And Rachel and Abby aren't as technical, but they're very administratively minded. Let me drink some coffee real quick. Much better. Wetting my whistle, as they say. Directly underneath the video producer is the switcher operator. In television, you might call them the director or the technical director. And that person is responsible for what goes out on the IMAG screens. To the switcher operator's right is the person that runs the Coolux machine, which it's Coolux Pandora's box, and that controls our main huge screen. And when I say huge, I don't mean 10 feet, I mean 40 feet. It's huge. It's like the size of a football field. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but it's huge. So that is more environmental kind of projection. Sometimes it has the same thing as the sides, but never IMAG. It's all what it has on the is always full screens or videos, that kind of thing. So that's what that is. By the way, that's the only PC that we have, and it's the front end for a Linux box that actually does the heavy lifting. And it's not on the network. We don't want any chance of that bad boy getting a virus, because we'd be just in trouble. Okay, back row, we've got 4 Mac Pros, main recording, backup recording. You would think we wouldn't need to, but we have needed to on more than one occasion. So, main recording, backup recording. Then we have a lyrics projection machine that person is only responsible for the lyrics. And so, lyrics and sermon notes. Then we have a VTR position that person is only responsible for playing videos. So they play the videos that we see in the services. Understand? So that's our video team. Now the switcher operator also does a bit of an engineering position operating the shaders, but doesn't do that very much. And occasionally the switcher operator will reach over and do something with the Coolux if we're low on people. Occasionally they'll call me in from the satellite campus to run the VTR machine, which is an easier position, but you need to really be on it and count in and out times and everything. Our video room is separate enough so that we can talk at normal volumes, which I think is super important when you're doing production. Having a booth in the room that's not walled off is problematic. So that's our video team. One last question, and that was from, let's see here. I got that in over here, I believe. Just a second while. Yes, Dennis Warner asks how you use Google Hangouts to broadcast the service. First off, I wouldn't do it. If you can get enough likes on your YouTube page, you can live stream. You need 100 likes. So it's not impossible to do. Now, if you have a super small church, that might be difficult to do. But that's what I would recommend, that you can live stream onto YouTube, and that's going to give you a better quality product, and it's still got some limitations, but it's a much better choice. Now, backing up, if you can't do that and you want to do a Google Hangout, I would do Hangouts on air. First step, you need to connect your Google Plus account that you're going to do this with to your YouTube account. And then when you start up a Hangout, you have the choice of making it a Hangout on air, or HOA as we call it. An HOA streams directly to YouTube. The problem is a Hangout is inherently two-way, so it makes allowances for two-way, and you're not doing two-way, you're doing one-way. So I think that that's the problem, is you won't get the video quality that you could do with streaming live directly to YouTube. And again, I've used uh, I've used Hangouts on Air. I've used YouTube live streaming. I've used worshipchannels.com, which they're good too. Head on over to worshipchannels.com to try them out. And I've used churchstreaming.tv. There's another one that I've used that is much more technical. It has flexibility out the yin yang. Basically, they just resell Akamai services, so you have total control. It's phenomenal, but it's difficult to figure out. So, but they can build that all for you. So, again, I would try out churchstreaming.tv again at trinitydigitalmedia.com/churchstreaming, because their tech support is second to none. And $100 a month is not a lot to spend to do this. And you can also video podcast it. That's something else. If you go to trinitydigitalmedia.com/subscribe, you'll see all my subscription links, including a video podcast link of this show and all the other shows. So that's absolutely what I would recommend if I were you, is to try those out. But if you don't have the money, YouTube live streaming. If you can't get enough people to like your YouTube channel, Hangouts on Air. You can't do just a regular Hangout unless you do some workarounds, which I wouldn't recommend because the quality is troublesome enough already. So I'd go with Hangouts on Air, which you should be able to do out of the gate. So if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to go to trinitydigitalmedia.com/contact and leave those there. Again, my Twitter handle at Paul Allen Cliff, PAULALANCLIF, and I'll be happy to talk to you there. And next week is the week of my 40th birthday. So Thursday, which is my actual birthday, I'm going to go through 40 quick tips on Technobabble. But first, on Monday, we'll talk about why your church should be blogging. Tuesday, on creating church, over-explain, but give opt-outs. And Wednesday, the 80-20 rule. And Friday, of course, after my birthday on Thursday, is your questions. So this time next week when I do this show, I'll be 40 years old. Right now I'm 39 and I'm enjoying my last week of it. Okay, until next time, go out and change eternity.